Welcome to The Hook with Sarah Larson. I am your host, Sarah Larson, and I'm really excited to introduce my friend, Denise Christenson Rae. I cannot be more excited to have you here today. So will you please tell us what you do?
Yes. Hi. I'm so thrilled to be here. I cannot even, it's like a dream come true to be on your podcast. You're actually my very, very, very first podcast I've ever been on. So I'm really thrilled about it. I'm Denise Christenson Rae. I do a lot of things. I wear a lot of hats, but I'm here to talk about my business. So I am a life coach and a creative wellness guide. And my other hats are that I am a mom of 4 kids. My kids are 15, 13, 10, and 7. And then I have my husband that I've known for 27 years. And I'm a special education life skills teacher.
Awesome. Tell me a little bit about what is a creative wellness guide. Tell us a little bit more about that.
I just believe that creativity is the crux of health, to be honest with you. I feel like we need to be creative. Basically, there's a quote by Brene Brown that says, unused creativity is not benign. I might be saying that a little incorrectly, but if you don't give yourself time to let loose, do things that light you up, it's not benign. It's going to come out in like ways that aren't very healthy for you. Maybe you're going to feel extra tired. Maybe you're going to be cranky with your family or you're at work. Maybe you're just going to find yourself scrolling on your phone too much or binging Netflix or whatever, which is not a bad thing every once in a while, but usually it's because we're not giving time to do the things that we really feel like we want to light us up, and we're not allowing ourselves to do it. So I'm here to guide people to remind themselves that it's okay to have fun, to be creative, to play sometimes, which is a word that a lot of adults kind of let go of when they were kids. When we were kids, we had play dates. We played all the time. That was like our job as a child. As we got older, all sorts of responsibilities got put on our shoulders. There were expectations. We had to get into a school or we had to get a job that we wanted. That kind of washed out our play. I feel like in general, adults don't really like when I talk about play, people kind of cringe a little bit like, oh, I don't even know how to do that. What is that? And so it's something that I think is really healthy for us to bring back into our lives. So that's what I advocate for. That's the umbrella of a creative wellness guide or coach. I actually run retreats. That's kind of what my retreats are all about.
We will get a little deeper on the creativity and play, but I'd like to start, as I usually do, with your childhood and what that was like. Tell us about growing up and what was young Denise like?
Okay. Well, to no surprise, I was a creative child, and that's what I have tapped back into as an adult. But as a child, I loved art. I loved music. I never really became a dancer. I only did tap dancing for 1 year and it didn't last. But now I like to dance. I was really heavily into make believe, and I loved going to plays and just all things had to do with creativity. My friend and I created a whole magazine that we is actually the precursor to the iPad. Back in the day, we had this magazine that you would pretend to press a button on the paper and it was supposed to turn the pages for you and all that stuff. So I was doing all sorts of fun things like that most of us as kids were probably doing. I am the oldest of 4 kids too. So I have 4 kids, but I'm the oldest of 4 kids. And yeah, as a kid, I was very creative, but I also had a lot of responsibility because I was the oldest of 4 kids and I was the oldest by a lot. So I am 5.5 years older than my sister. She's the next. So I was an only child for 5 years. And then I'm 9 years older than my brother, then 13 years older than my youngest brother. So I was babysitting. In order to get a car in high school, I brought my little brother to daycare. I was a helper for my parents. And so I kind of took on responsibility, and I became really well known for myself as a responsible person, a dependable person. And so I took, I was talking about how I probably let go of some of the fun stuff because I was like, oh, I have to get the good grades. We'll talk a little about that. I had a little bit of perfectionistic tendencies, and I was very heavily into getting really good grades and I did. And so even in college, I ended up as salutatorian. I had the highest grade point average at my college because I was a little obsessed with doing work and all that kind of stuff. So I did let go a lot of my play and creativity and traded that to do things perfectly so that I could eventually get a good job. And then, all the things I thought I had to do correctly. I learned actually in college that I was going down a path that was not necessarily healthy. Nobody put the pressure on me. My parents were like not putting pressure on me. My boyfriend, who's my husband now, tried to help me and remind me. My friends are all reminding me that I did not need to be doing that, but I had this like drive in me. So I ended up in counseling to help myself with the anxiety that this all caused. And it was probably one of the best things ever in my life. Well, there's so many good things in my life, but this is one of the turning points in my life that one of my college professors saw how I kind of flipped out over a pop quiz coming up. And they were like, maybe you should go to the counseling center. And I was like, what? Like, I thought that was like the worst thing ever. But then I ended up being the best thing. I'm still actually my mentor, my therapist at the time, but now I'm still in touch with her and she's like my mentor now. Is amazing. And she helped me understand perfectionism. And because of that, I brought in more creativity and play. And that's when I started to go to retreats. But that's kind of a nutshell. There was a lot of initial play and creativity and fun. And then I kind of got uber responsible.
Well, it's so funny because, of course, we talked about this ahead of time. You said, what are the disruptions in my life? I feel like it's been pretty smooth sailing. Okay, hello. Being called out by your professor and sent into counseling is definitely a disruption. And it disrupted this identity of being uber responsible and perfectionism to bringing in that creativity and play. That's so cool.
So what ended up happening is I started going to counseling in like my junior year. And then by my senior year, now I had already basically gotten like all these grades that were putting me on track to becoming valedictorian, which is nutty. And I didn't even want that. I was like, I don't want to be on like speaking. I just was doing it because I thought I had to be on this path. So I ended up going on a retreat between my junior year and my senior year to a place called Omega Institute, which is a holistic learning center in Rhinebeck, New York. I went to college at Marist College, so it wasn't far from where I went to school. I went on a weekend or a week long, I can't remember. I went on a retreat by myself, didn't know anybody. I was the youngest by far there. Most people were like their 30s, 40s. It was all about holistic wellness and learning about nutrition and taking care of yourself and mind-body connection. And it was amazing. And it was life-changing. I loved every second of it. And between the counseling and then that, my senior year, I changed a lot. I was a education major. I was going for the degree was called psychology special education. So it ends up with a degree in pre-K through 6th grade general education and K through 12th grade special education. And I was placed in a few general education classes that just did not, I didn't feel like they were the right thing for me. I did like this in the special education classes I was in when I was doing like internships and stuff. But I also was starting to get like a really big feeling that I needed to learn more about counseling. I mean, it's called life coaching now, but it was very new. We're talking about 2001. And I was following Cheryl Richardson, and she's a life coach. And I was like, I want to be her. So I ended up calling my mom one night, my senior year of college, and telling her, hey, I was going to be a teacher. I think I might be a life coach or a therapist or something. I don't know, Mom. I think I want to try that out. I don't know. I want to be a teacher, but I also want to do that. I kind of wanted both. I decided to go back to go get my master's right away, not teach right after college and get my master's. So that was a big decision I made. That I guess is also a disruption in my senior year of college. And then I also started taking a yoga class at school, and I was painting, and I was just doing all sorts of things in my last semester and applying to graduate schools. And then it turns out that I ended up in the running for valedictorian. It ended up being like an interview process, like whoever was like the top 4 people went to an interview with the president of the college. And when I went to the interview, I think you're supposed to talk about all your academics. And I was like, well, I learned that there's so much more to learning than just academics. There's also health and well-being. And I talked to my yoga class I was taking, and I talked about all the things that I had learned about like myself at the counseling center, and I wasn't picked. But I got salutatorian. But it was funny because I was like, listen, man, like it's not healthy sometimes to go in that direction. And I kind of wanted, I would have talked about that in my speech. And I think they were all like, we're not going to do that. So I ended up going to NYU for grad school to get my master's in social work because I really still thought about teaching and you need to have your master's for teaching. So I figured, well, I'll get my master's in social work. It's a full-time master's, so I couldn't do it and teach at the same time, which a lot of my friends were doing when they started teaching. They would get their master's on the side and I couldn't do that. So it was a great experience. And then I stayed and did substitute teaching during that experience and decided to get into the classroom after all. I think God was looking down and was like, this girl's supposed to do life coaching as well. So I ended up getting a position as a special education life skills teacher. And I've been doing that for 20 years now.
So it combined all of those things that you love.
It is a lot of social work is applicable to teaching life skills. So I teach students with developmental disabilities. The kids I teach are usually between the ages of 18 and 21. And they're transitioning from being in school to being in the real world and either working or going to agencies after high school. So I help them get job training as well as functional academics and learning daily living skills. And then I also help the parents. I do a lot of parent partnership and helping them into the next phase of life and all that kind of stuff. So it is basically life coaching. So I really think it's so interesting how all the pieces kind of fell together.
That's so good. And I think I knew you were a life skills teacher, but I really didn't put that together. So it was really great.
I didn't put it together until recently either, when I've been really building my business. And I'm like, and I was talking to people and they're like, you're so qualified. You have your master's in social work and you've been a life skills teacher for 20 years. Like that is life coaching.
Right. So tell me, let's go back just a little bit. Did the therapist recommend the creativity and play type of stuff? Is that how you got into doing the yoga and adding that in, or was that just you took that away? Because
I never fully let go of creativity, even during the responsibility time. In college, I was in AP art. I just didn't take lunch because that's healthy. Just kidding. So I fit in chorus and I fit in art and I just made sure I fit in these things. And I thought like creativity never left me behind. It was always there for me to do. So it'd be like, I will study at the library till 8:00. And then I would let myself paint a little bit. It was like, I let myself, and right now I'm learning, like, if I feel like doing it, it's healthy for me to do that creativity. And that actually will help me feed me in what other endeavors that I have to do as an adult who has other responsibilities.
I think that's really an interesting part too. That instead of using the creativity as the reward, using the creativity to feed the focused work that needs to be done.
That's what I like recommend to people. Yeah. I have to say, like, the therapist didn't like recommend these things to me, but she like encouraged them in me. Yeah. She saw the spark I had. She knew, I mean, she's just an incredible person. She just knew what I was capable of and like was just shining that light on me and like encouraging me to do those things. And that's what I want to do for other people.
So something that you mentioned that I want to go back to is the fact that your high school boyfriend is now your husband. So how old were you guys when you met?
Okay, so I met my husband, Brian, when we were 15. I had moved when I was 12, which was very hard for me. And that's probably what sparked my perfectionism, to be honest with you, because I was like, well, I can be successful in school. But I left all my friends, my grandparents, and we moved, I know, 45 minutes away, but that was a lot to a 12-year-old. So we moved 45 minutes away. And I was devastated, to say the least. It was a very big middle school I moved into. It was the third biggest middle school in the country. So my husband now was in that school, but we never met each other until we were 15 years old. And we went on a trip to Washington, D.C. with our social studies classes. And that's how we met. I saw him from the corner of my eye and I was like, who is that? It was definitely like, I was smitten at first sight. I don't know if it was love, but it was smitten at first sight. And then he saw me and he says it's the same. He came up to me on the trip and we hung out, on the trip together. And then we took the bus back home together and we found out that both our moms' names are Mary Lou. And we were like, that's it. It's meant to be. Yes, both our moms have the same name. And then that weekend, we went on our first date and we saw Toy Story in 1995, the first Toy Story. We've been together ever since. And even though we went to different colleges, we stayed together through college. And we got married in 2005. So we were like together for 10 years before we got married. And now it's been 27 years since we met when we were 15. It's crazy. But it's also like, it's just our story. So his sister, who I'm like very close with both his sisters, and he's close to my family too. She's 10 years younger than us. And so at the time she was only 5. I used to play Barbie dolls with her and stuff. And then my brother, who's 13 years younger than me, is 29. But at the time he was only 2. So he doesn't really know time without Brian.
Yeah, I think that's so cool that you guys have been so intertwined with each other's families for so long.
Yeah, I feel very lucky. He just was such a good grounding for me throughout all the anxiety and the perfectionism. And he grounded me throughout all that and has been since. So it's really good for me.
That's incredible. Well, I love hearing that story. And so was your plan to have 4 children?
Yeah, actually, yeah. I wanted 3 or 4 kids, but I really wanted 4 because I always thought if we go to an amusement park, I know it sounds crazy, I want us to be able to go on the whole, like everybody has a partner to go on the ride with, you know? So we actually just went to Disney World and I was like, this is my dream, guys. But I'm just kidding. That's just in jest. I grew up with 4 kids in our family. My husband has 3 kids in his family. We're used to that. And that's how it went. And it's perfect, especially now as they're getting older and they can take care of themselves in some ways. Like it's not as physically draining as it was, especially because I worked full time throughout having all the kids. I mean, I took time for maternity leaves, but I've been a teacher this whole time.
Yeah, that's a lot too. I have major respect for that, Denise.
I also have a lot of help. We moved on purpose to the town where we grew up. My son goes to the same high school that my husband and I went to. My husband's family still lives here, and my parents lived here just till a few years ago. So when they were little, I had lots of help. And then we have like the best babysitter on the planet that's been with us for like 11 years, and she's awesome. So it's a lot. Yeah, it takes a village, that's for sure.
Right. So you started going to retreats. Your first one, you said 19 or 20?
I was like 19, 20. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And so tell me how that has influenced your life going forward.
Well, I learned at that time how important it is to take a break from the regular life, to get away, and how a weekend can be so transformational. You can get so much more transformation out of a shorter period of time when you take yourself out of like the normal, regular, whatever's happening in the daily grind, and you do something different and you take yourself away. And so that's what I did. And I felt so good. And I came back and felt like amazing. And I just knew that I wanted that to be part of my lifestyle. I did it for a bunch of years. And there were times where I didn't go, a few years. And so, or maybe more than a few years where I didn't go on retreats. And then actually it was September 2021. And I was invited by my friend, who's a coworker of mine, to go on a retreat with her. With her yoga instructor was holding a retreat, and it was a day-long retreat. I live on Long Island, so it was here on Long Island. I remember doing some yoga, and it was like a flood of memories. I remember myself dancing when I had gone to Omega way back when. I danced on stage with these like drums, and it was like such an experience. And I had such a great, just things that I would never usually do in my regular life. I was doing, and it was people I was meeting, and it like all kind of flooded back to me as I was doing yoga, and was like, I want to do retreats. Like I want to do retreats more. I want to host a retreat. And it like all kind of came. And during this retreat that I went to in September of 2021, we ended with dancing, and it ended up with like, I was dancing with a fire. Actually, it's really cool. I have video of it. And I was like, yep, like it sparked everything. I had this, like I got completely lit up. My entire body was like, yes, this is it. And I basically told my 2 friends, because it was my friend that one of my friends invited me. And then we had another friend that was there too. And I told both of them, I'm like, I am having retreats, and I'm going to have my first one in November. So that November, I like made it happen. Those 2 people, shout out to Megan and Jerry, they came and supported me. And then also our friend Rachel came too. And then I invited my friend Danielle, I knew she did yoga. She's a friend of my mom's. And I was like, random question, would you be interested in doing yoga if I hold a retreat at my house? And she said, yes. She's a yoga instructor. She has her own business that she runs, like yoga for like events. It's called I Do Yoga. She does it before weddings and things like that. And it was awesome. We did a vision board retreat, and it was in November of 2021. And it was my very first like business retreat. And I was completely on cloud nine afterwards. It was just so great. And that's how it started, having retreats. But wanting to be a business owner there's a story behind that too. It's been longer than just this first retreat. I can explain that in a minute if you want.
Yeah, no, I would love to hear more about that. So now, how many retreats have you held so far?
I've had 3 in-person retreats, and then I have now created some virtual options. I have a virtual retreat online, and now I also have created a membership program. It's called Creative Calm Studio. So it's like a way we can bring the feeling of a retreat into our everyday lives by doing all the different things I have in this studio. And I also have a mastermind that we really do like virtual retreats together. So it's great.
Yeah, and I want to talk more about that, but I will say I'm a member of this mastermind. And to start with, it was one of these things like Denise and I are in another mastermind together. And when she said she was going to start one, I said, yes, I love this idea of these mini retreats as part of your life. And when you talk about adults who have given up on play, I definitely fall into that camp. I have had this conversation previously about how fun or play for me, I would have said was, oh, I love listening to podcasts and I love listening to audiobooks or reading. Those are just great fun for me. And but that there needs to be more creativity and all of that. And I thought, I love this idea of this mastermind. I definitely want to be part of it. And I will say, it's just more than I ever anticipated that it would be.
Yeah. Yeah, I think what I have this idea in my head, and I know what I'm envisioning. And I think especially with this category of things, like that's nice. It would be great. When I have time, I'll take time to do some more creativity. When I take time, I'll invite more rest and play into my life. But when you actually do it and you're encouraged to do it, it's like it benefits all the other aspects of your life. If you're in business, you're giving more ideas and juice to your business. If you are a mom, you have like more energy for those kids because you just took care of yourself. You just lit yourself up. Sometimes moms feel like a martyr where they're just always giving, and you're filling yourself up when you take time for doing stuff like that. So that's why I really think like you're not the first person. Like I've had a few people that have been in the mastermind. They're like, I didn't realize how much I needed this. Right. And that's why I want to invite more and more people into the studio, the Creative Calm Studio and the mastermind, because I know it's what people need. It's a thing. You don't know how much you need, if that makes sense.
Yeah, you don't know how much you need it until you take the time to do it. You and I have created this accountability partnership for each other because we both realized that we sort of needed somebody to hold each other accountable in order to get through the things that we need to do, right? Sometimes it's difficult to keep an appointment with yourself when you are more concerned about keeping appointments with other people. Folks who listen to recent podcasts have heard more about human design. But as manifesting generators, we tend to want to work on what feels good to us in the moment. And it's important for us to know what we still want to achieve and get done in a time frame, but we don't always plan every single day to the minute because we want to leave it open. Why I brought up the accountability is that when it comes to doing the creativity and play, sometimes you need that forced thing on your calendar, at least I do, to make the time for that. And having the mastermind to look forward to, I am creating that time in my calendar. That's kind of an appointment with somebody else, but it's really for me.
Yes. Yeah. So you bring up a good aspect here is that's part of what I do is to help people figure out how to get it into their calendars, because that is probably one of the number one things I hear is like, oh, that would be nice, but I don't have time. I get it. Believe me. Believe me, I 100% get it, because like we've already discussed, I have a lot on my plate as well. But I think like most people in our modern day do. But it's not impossible. And it can come in like littler bits. And I talk about how retreats, a retreat could be great. It could be a whole week away in like Bali. That's amazing. It could also be a weekend or a day. But it also can be just like a little bit of time in that you put out aside for your day. So it could be a 15-minute block where you're like, I'm going to go into a corner of the house where nobody else is. I'm going to tell them I have, an important meeting or whatever. And your important meeting can be about you. And you can put on a meditation, or you can paint a little bit, or you can write, or you can, whatever it is that you find joy and that lights you up. You can take that little bit of time and do that in just a little pocket of time in your day. Listen, is it nicer to have an hour or two? Sure. Maybe you'll find an hour or two, but you can start with smaller pockets, and it's possible. And that's what I've like wanted to help people understand, that it's possible, and encourage them, and then help them look at their calendars and like, let's figure it out together and have that accountability. Because yes, Sarah, it's been awesome having you as my accountability partner to talk through all the things that I want to do, because you're right. We're both in the human design world, manifesting generators, and we have a lot of things we want to do. I think what makes it makes you an unhealthy manifesting generator, or any type that you are in life, is when you deny yourself from doing the things that you want to do. Mm-hmm. But like we said, we have responsibilities, some have tos, because you have to do your laundry, you have to do all different things. I think it helps to know that you're giving yourself time to do some of the really things that you want to do, that you're dreaming of, that's on your bucket list or your dream list, that you're actually setting aside time for that, because you deserve that. You're important. You're touching so many people's lives. And that's actually one of the things. I work a lot with people who are caregivers. That's something that's really important to me, because I'm a caregiver. Most of us are caregivers in some way, because we care about people in our lives. People who are pouring out, like coaches and teachers and nurses and all the people who are pouring out themselves every day to help others, need to be poured back into. We need to do things for ourselves. Exercise, nutrition, all that is so important. And so is doing what lights you up.
Amen is just all I have to say to all of that. I'd love for you to describe, this is something that really hit me when I heard you say it the first time, is what play and creativity does to your mind and body. Can you talk about the effects of that?
Yeah. So, I mean, there's so many effects of it. And I'm just going to talk about one thing that I did mention to you, but there's there's research on play and creativity that we can go into another time. But one of the things that I find it does for me is it like loosens me up. It gives me life within me. It lets me do something that maybe doesn't have to have a result. Maybe it will eventually. Maybe it is something that maybe I'm making a painting and it will go to somebody, but maybe it's just for painting's sake. It like lets me just loosen my brain, if that makes sense. And then after I finish that, all of a sudden I'll have ideas that weren't even there. I know you have an example of that, Sarah.
Yes, I was going to share that example, because after our very first mastermind session, as soon as it was over, I had to go pick up groceries. And as I was on my way to the grocery store, I just got this idea in my head about a reel that I wanted to make that was sort of an advertisement for my podcasting mastermind, the Pod People. And I just started talking into my voice memos in my phone to say, okay, this scenario, and then I'll like record these and clip them all together and create this thing, and came up with an idea to make it like a riff on a medication commercial. Like, if you have these symptoms, then you need, that. And it was really so fun to put it together. But I got that immediately after we had just been talking about play for an hour. And it was so incredible. And so I saw the immediate tangible benefit from taking that time and doing that. And then the play that came from that was so fun, because then our dear friend Natalie Barnett also, she participated with me with the recording of my little reel. And then she created this laugh track from it because we just cracked each other up the whole time we were recording. And so it was like we had a little play session while we were recording. It was just really a lot of fun. And I do think that that loosening that you talked about, that creativity was loosened so that I could tap into it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. That was a great story. And first of all the reels that came out of that were amazing.
No.
So good. But yeah, that's an amazing example of why we need to take time to do this for ourselves. And it's not only, yes, it'll be so good for the moment to be in the present moment and have some mindfulness through creativity and play and rest. But also there can be benefits that could be productive that can come out of it as well.
Right. Right. Something that I used to love when I was in high school, I was in plays and musicals, and creating that reel and kind of writing a little script for it and then doing the recording. It was really fun and playful, and it reminded me of that time of my life when I used to do those things. So
right. Yeah. I mean, we always talk about like, what did you used to do when you were younger? Like, what did you love to do? And you didn't have to do all the other things that you have to do as an adult. And a lot of times it ends up being like the things that you really kind of want to try doing now, or you can dabble in new things. Like that's also playful too. I'm all about dabbling and trying new modes of creativity. Because why not? Like, it doesn't have to be good. That's another thing. The enemy is can totally be perfectionism and like, well, I'm not good at painting. Oh, I'm the worst at drawing, or I hate cooking, or whatever it is. Like, well, give it a try for just fun. It could come out terrible, but you might end up finding something that really does spark joy for you. So
yeah, it's true. One of the other things that you suggested at one point was you didn't call it a play date, but you call it like an artist
artist. Yeah, that's from Julia Cameron's book, The Artist's Way.
Artist
And
way.
many of you have probably heard about morning pages. That came from that book. And then another part of the book is artist dates. And basically it's just like going on a date with yourself, like an adventure. I feel like play is like not necessarily the best word sometimes because it's a lot of like background to it, but like an adventure, just going on like a hike can be playful. Like planning a vacation is play. It's an adventure. It's getting you out of the everyday grind that you're going through. Like, even though the everyday can be beautiful, a healthy escape can be like doing these kind of dates for yourself. Like one of my favorite artist dates is to just go to a bookstore and with some books and like magazines and get a coffee. I don't drink coffee, so I don't even know why I said that. Tea. Most likely would be tea and some sort of sweet treat. But yeah, like going and doing something like that and just really enjoying some time by myself. But you can also go on an artist date with like a friend, you know?
Yeah, it's funny that you say that because I love going to a bookstore and having a coffee and looking through books, and just I love imagining bringing all the books home that I will never have time to read. But I love them anyway, and I love being in a bookstore. So when you first mentioned that, I was absolutely in love with it. But then as you were describing that date, I realized my husband and I do that on occasion. He likes to flip through the magazines. He has very specific ones that he likes to look at. So he goes and grabs the ones that are interesting to him, and I'll go find some books that I want to flip through, and we'll just sit there and have our coffee.
You could totally go on with somebody else and go on an adventure. But, you know, I think sometimes just having time on our own is what our brain just needs, because our nervous system gets a little jumbled up with all the things and all the people. So sometimes just going by yourself and doing something by yourself. What I've been doing lately is I've been stopping at the shores. I live on Long Island, so I've been stopping at the beach a lot, and it has been so nourishing. And that's actually been a creative spark for me as well, because now I'm getting really creative, playing around with my photography and taking a picture every day in some way, or a video. And it's just like been a lot of fun for that. But it's something that I have to get to work, and I just go past the water every single day. And I finally was like, wait, I can stop for 5 minutes. I have 5 minutes in my day to stop. And I've been doing this. Tomorrow's gonna be my 40th day of stopping by the water. And it's been really, really, really healing for me and sparking a lot of creativity.
Yeah, that's amazing. I love the reframing of play also as adventure, because I do think that people think of play as being frivolous and I'm wasting time because it's not, as you talked about earlier, it doesn't have an end product or an outcome associated with it. But I love the term adventure, and I think that it probably does resonate with people who are a little more, I hate to say triggered, but
Yeah, a lot of people love travel. And I think a lot of the reason why people love travel so much is because of that sense of adventure. That's that time where you're allowed to just play. You can do the things that you don't usually let yourself do in your regular life. And what I'm encouraging people to do is to bring some of that stuff into your regular life so that it's not just reserved for when you travel or go on vacation. I think traveling and going on vacation is an amazing form of play. And I think it's a way for people to see like, oh yeah, okay, I'm playing. Like I'm not calling it play. I'm not telling my friends that I'm going to Cancun to play. No, like, like you're going to Cancun to go on a vacation, but a lot of that adventure is playful.
you're right. Vacation is like going away to play. We just don't call it play. You had said you wanted to be an entrepreneur for many years.
Oh, right.
There was a story behind that. So can you tell us what the story is?
Literally, since I was in elementary school, I used to read like the Babysitters Club books, and they had a business, and I thought that was the coolest thing. So I got a few of my friends together, probably, I think it was like late elementary school. So we probably like 5th or 6th grade, and we created our own like Babysitters Club, but it wasn't for babysitting. It was like, 'cause we weren't old enough to do that, but it was like helping at kids' birthday parties. That was my first business. It was we had probably like 2 parties that we ran. It was very profitable. No, that was my first business. But I had that bug. I've had this entrepreneurial spirit, but I didn't really understand that I was an entrepreneurial spirit. I just knew that I always thought about doing things, but it usually involves some sort of creativity, which is very interesting how it's like what's happening now. Even when I was in like grad school, I had an art camp for kids in my backyard for my husband's little sister, who's 30 now, but at the time she was in elementary school. So I had her and her friends over and had a little art camp in the summer. And then all throughout like post grad school and like early career as a teacher, I was making cards and wanting to sell them. And I had like all these different ideas for business names. I started a little Etsy shop at one point. I even had like a blog called Fun Family Dates, where I was going to help people figure out how to do fun, creative dates with their family. So everything's just always been kind of like leading me in this direction. I was a Stampin' Up! What's it called? Demonstrator, which is like basically an MLM. Is that what they're called? MLM. I had card classes and scrapbook classes in my home while my kids were really little. And I actually had one not that long ago either. So I still kind of do that. But I've always like been wanting to do something. And I just recently, these retreats basically reminded me that, okay, this is something I'm meant to do. It's not just something I want to do. It's like I have a calling to do this. I believe in a higher power. And I think my higher power is like, yep, we're not going to let this spirit die. I'm going to keep that entrepreneurial spirit growing in you until you actually say, yes, I'm doing it. And I just recently, and I think I know that this is the yes. I'm a businesswoman now.
Yeah. And that's the disruption that we talked about originally. This is this disruption. You created a business. You've been a teacher for 20 years, and all of a sudden now you are also an entrepreneur. And how has that affected the identity? I mean, you've always been leading up to this. So was it really an identity change, or how do you feel about it?
Wow. Okay. So I wouldn't say it's a complete identity change because it has been a simmer over time.
Mhm.
What is changing is figuring out how I logistically make it all work, because I have made the decision that I'm not going to let fear or doubt stop me. I'm in this. I know my mission now. I'm here to help women, especially caregivers, create more time in their schedules and their lives to have play, creativity, and rest so that they can be more vibrant and available to their whole full lives. So like I have a mission now, and there's people who need me. That's what I'm working on now, is like okay, we're not playing business. That's something that I'm really having to work on. I'm not playing business. I am a businesswoman and I'm committed to this and I'm committed to learning and growing. And it's taking a lot for me to right now, what I spent a lot of time as I'm starting this business is like learning and diving into a lot of stuff and consuming. And that's actually what I'm working on right now, is realizing that I have a lot of it within me already. I have the guidance that I need. I've hooked myself up with some amazing people. Allison Cullen, who was on your podcast last week. She's one of my mentors. She's amazing. Natalie Barnett, who was also on your podcast. She's another one of my mentors. You're a mentor of mine. So I hooked myself with amazing people. And now I know I need to just take the actions. And that's what I've been doing. I've been really working on action taking. And also confidence, believing in myself, knowing that, because you're talking to a very new businesswoman here. Like, I know like you had some people who've been in it for a very long time. Like, I'm a newbie. I'm here to say, like, I am in it and I'm not just playing anymore. Playing. You talk about how important play is. And I say playing business. That's so funny. But it's true, because there's play that's fun and the frivolous time of just playing and like doing creative, like having a hobby business. Like, I'm not a hobby. I have a mission. So I'm here for something really important. So that's what I've been working on. That's been the disruption, is like figuring out how to fit the time in, because like I said, it's important that I also have the time for rest and creativity and play in my schedule in my life, because first of all, that's really, really valuable to me and really important and essential. So I have to fit that in. That comes first. And then I have to figure out where the business also comes in, because I am learning and growing, and I have the full-time job and the 4 kids. But I'm also a manifesting generator. And if you know anything about manifesting generators, they can wear a lot of hats, and it like actually is healthy. I'm just learning how to work on all that and get the help that I need too, like resources, and get the support when I need support.
You are learning in the process too of how to show your clients, how to show other people, look at how busy my life is. You can make time for creativity, rest, and play.
Yeah. What I've had to do is realize, like, you can't fit everything in. You do have to realize that there is a day, but also time can expand to fit things in a certain way. Like, if you're lit up, you're going to get something done a lot faster than if you're drudging through something that's like not lighting you up. If you do something fun and you do something playful, you actually might get your work done faster later on in your day, because you're not like, oh, I haven't done anything for myself. That's actually helpful. So I'm kind of playing around here. I remember that word again. I'm kind of playing around with that too, like how I can expand time in ways like that. And then at the same time, and what are the things I have to say no to, because I can't do everything right now. If the business is important to me, and obviously my family is like utmost importance. So I'm not going to let that go. And teaching is really important to me too. So I'm going to be a teacher. So how am I going to fit this into? I've had to say, no, I can't watch a lot of TV. Just doesn't fit in my schedule right now. Maybe during a vacation, maybe I'll do that. But like a normal day, that's not something that can fit in my schedule. I'm really working on how much I scroll on social media right now, because it's not moving my business forward and helping people. And that's my big thing, is I want to serve other people, is just to watch some sort of random celebrities thing on Instagram or YouTube or whatever. So that's what I'm learning, is how to give myself constraint and how to say no to things that I never had to really say no to before, because I had some extra time. I'm in the process of that right now.
I love that imagery of, I'm not playing at business anymore. You talked about all these different types of jobs and businesses you created over the years, and then you finally found the one that is the one. And you are a real businesswoman. And I just want to reiterate that you are a real businesswoman. And I'm so excited to see what you're doing, because I do know that it is needed and it's powerful.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Would you like to tell our listeners where they can find you on the internet?
Sure. So I'm on Instagram. My handle there is Denise Christenson Rae. I'm sure you're going to put that in the show notes, but yeah, so you'll see how to spell all that. So you can DM me there. That'd be amazing. I'd love to connect with you. So that's probably the best place to find me. And then I have a website, www.christensenrae.com, and that links to my mastermind and my membership. I'd love for you to get involved in the membership. I actually can give you a coupon code if you want to add that to the show notes for the masterminds, where you have a lot more intimate time to talk in a small group and to do some more like meditations and things like that we do together. And you also get access to like any of the retreats and programs that I make and things like that.
Denise, thank you so much for coming and being on the podcast. And I'm just so excited to see where this goes and watch your retreat revolution happen.
Yeah. Oh, yes. My retreat revolution. That's what I call it. Yes. Thank you. Thank you, Sarah. You know, I love you. You know,
love you too.
you're like
Thank
my
you so
business
much.
buddy, and your podcast is incredible. So I really feel incredibly honored to have my very first podcast be with you. So thank you so much.
My honor for sure.